and I hope somebody wins more money. I mean, that's the goal. And I think that's what's scary about for drivers to take it is like, if you don't win, then you have to come into your crew and they're like, you dumbass, you were on the pole. You moved back and you didn't win. So like, we don't even want to hear about it.
I guess we need to do one of these every week, since every time we do one, you guys win. So another victory toast to Brad on another one at Pevely, and Kyle finally winning one at Martinsville. So cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Yeah,
What
cheers.
are you drinking this time?
I got some Maker's Mark, some bourbon here.
And we got our first event
going, Kyle?
Oh yeah, where is it?
I don't know. I haven't had time to walk around my house or my shop to see where a good spot would be, but Owen wanted it in his room until I told him that, dude, that thing goes off every hour. He's like, all right, maybe not then. So I don't know. I'll find a spot. I mean, up here or where I'm shooting right now, maybe I could put it up here somewhere, I guess.
You get to keep this one, though. You don't get to keep your sprint car trophies, do you?
No. Paul takes all of them. So yeah, unless the there's like a team owner / driver, two separate trophies, I don't get any of them. So Knoxville gave us to Kings Royal. I think the Weichert, maybe you're like the only ones that I've got for sprint car wins.
Where's your trophy, Brad?
Which one? I got
the one from this weekend. Oh, it's right there.
Oh no, these are my bigger trophies. My trophy from this weekend, the guys just take back. So
gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we got a few Pevely trophies built up, so I'll keep every trophy, to be honest. So
yeah,
you try to keep your best ones, and then KKR has a good spot for a lot of the rest of the trophies.
All right. Well, I guess maybe since we're talking about Pevely, we wanted to talk about the Carson Macedo David Gravel thing real quick. So I guess what's your guys' take on that? There was some drama afterwards on social media, but the on-track take, Brad, we can start with you, since you were obviously out there and kind of in the midst of all that.
Yeah, I had a good view, but I actually didn't know what happened, so I had to watch the replay. But I kind of look at it as more of a racing deal. I think I put probably more blame on Brock Zierfoss than anybody. He's getting lapped. He was in the dash, getting lapped. The race leader's working hard to get by him to, clear a lane, and Zierfoss races him back into 3, puts David out in the middle, which, maybe to Carson, it looked like David was going to go all the way to the top, and David's really good and positioned himself out in the slick, which is really hard to do. And I think Carson just, came with a head of speed trying to basically clear David. Luckily for me, I entered on the top. So I say it's, Carson's fault for running into him, but more of a racing deal than, anything intentional. That's kind of how I see it.
I think too, with like Pevely, I think fans don't realize kind of how hard it is to see. When you're on the bottom, like it's so banked, it's kind of hard to see those guys, higher than you. So I think, like you said, Carson was probably expecting Gravel to drive more up the track than he did, but he's probably a little limited vision wise, more so than other tracks.
I just think you're always trying to, a lot of times you're just trying to get in front of the guy so he has to lift. And I think Carson was just, right there and trying to fill a gap. And David was smart enough to not leave that gap. So I think it just 2 guys ended up kind of in the same spot, but, still comes back to like if the lap car doesn't race, David back, I don't think that happened. So that's a respect thing. I hope that gets better over time for sure.
How do you guys handle that on a, 80 plus race schedule? I mean, there's obviously going to be times where guys do things to you where you don't like or you don't approve of. Like, what's that like? I mean, I think we kind of see it like, on the NASCAR side, it's maybe a little more public just in how guys handle some of their frustrations. But like, Brad, what do the Outlaw guys do? Is that a discussion? Is it a phone call? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think everyone's trying to, be respectful and gain respect out here. And, when you do things like that, you kind of lose respect. I mean, it's not that you like the person any less maybe as a person off the track, but you certainly think of them differently on the racetrack. And, we do this 90 nights a year. We're, touching wheels close to each other. Like, you just want respect. If it's not your night, it's not your night. And, the younger people, you kind of expect them to have to learn that. And maybe you do say something to them, but when a veteran or a guy that's been doing it long enough does it, it's just kind of like, it's just a lack of respect, and you certainly remember it. And, you certainly race differently with that person.
Is that how you feel, Kyle? Yeah.
I mean, for me, I guess like it's hard to put yourself in gravel shoes, right? But I feel like I do a good job of like understanding when it's not purposeful. Like Carson wasn't going in there with the intent of running into gravel. So I think, yes, you'd be upset, but for me, like, and I don't race for points or anything like that in the dirt stuff. So maybe that's why I get over things a little easier. But I think I understand when somebody wipes out your front end, usually that's more purposeful than, when they're kind of racing for the lead, driving across the middle and stuff like that, making contact. So like, I think if I was in Gravel's position, I would have, and I'm buddies with both of them. You're really good buddies, but I think I would understand it wasn't on purpose, and I would have been as upset as they seem to be.
Tension certainly high for sure. So we'll follow that the rest of the year. Of course, the High Limit Series was in action for our first race at Lakeside about a week ago now. So first things first, certainly glad to hear that Jake Newman is on the mend and recovering. And, that's the thought at the forefront of everybody's minds that was there and that was watching, obviously, here on FloRacing. So certainly glad to hear Jake's recovering. But guys, I just want to get your thoughts on the night. And I thought the racing was great. I don't know how you feel about it as somebody who wasn't a big half mile fan before we got there. I thought the racing was pretty good, but I guess, Kyle, we can start with you and just kind of share your thoughts dropping in there and ending up fifth on the night.
Well, I think our track prep guy, Brad Sweet, did a pretty good job throughout the night or the day and the night. It is half miles when they're right are awesome. And they are, I was talking to Brian Brown before. He's like, name your favorite tracks. And I was like, well, Knoxville, Eldora, Port Royal, like naming off a bunch of half miles. And I was like, well, all right. Yeah, that's kind of odd. But, I think when they're prepared right, they're really exciting. They do produce some great racing. And I thought Brad and everybody there did a really good job of executing the surface and giving a great racetrack to race on throughout the night. It took a while to get to where it needed to be, but I thought in the main event, it was great. You had a top and a bottom. It changed throughout the race. You had comers and goers, and it was just a really good track. So that was my first time ever there too. I've been a few times to watch, but had never gotten the chance to race. And I thought it raced a little differently than when I had been there watching. Like off of turn 2 wasn't quite as flat as I thought it looked on video. And the dirt was really good too. So I enjoyed it. It was fun to start as far back as we did and pass some really good cars and get to the top 5, for not being in a sprint car in 7 months. So I thought it was a good start. That was both mine and Paul's first time on the new tires too. So I thought we got better each time we hit the racetrack. So excited to get racing here more coming up and see if we can get our car better and see if we can start winning some races.
Brad, I know your result wasn't ultimately what you wanted, but same to you. How would you kind of evaluate it, both from the boots on the ground guy, obviously driving the water truck and kind of handling that side of it at the start of the day, and then jumping behind the wheel later in the night?
Yeah, it was a lot of a lot different, a lot of work. Trying to make sure we had the track right. I know our product could be good if it's just a lot of attention to detail. So just trying to put some of my experiences of racing at some of these places, and I've raced at Lakeside and kind of seen some of the tendencies there. That dirt can get wetter as the night goes on, so I think it's really crucial to not overwater it, which I think we did good. Qualifying was a little slicker than I was hoping, but just with a little bit of rework through the night, it seemed like we were able to get it where it needed to be. And actually it had 2 and even 3 lanes. So that's all you can really ask for as far as that side of things. Obviously the Jake Newman crash at the beginning of the night was something, curveball that we were not expecting, and obviously never hope for those things to happen. So really glad he's okay. It was, crazy to be a part of, that type of situation. Typically you're not, involved in that part of it when you're there racing. So glad he's okay. Glad he's on the mend. Really, really happy that all the safety improvements we've made. You could literally see, the accident that happened was, the right front stop came off the arm, then wedged itself into the tire. So when you enter turn 3, for whatever reason, when you go to turn left, it's just, it couldn't turn. And then he just basically takes a hard right into the wall, takes a very hard left side impact. So I think the berry bars and the safety cage he had on the left side was really crucial. Safer seat, the head and neck restraint, all the safety improvements, I think are really positive. Obviously, understand why the stop came off. We have those all thread or those plugs that are supposed to help keep those on. So some of that's a little we're not sure why that happened, but it's something that we need to keep watching and make sure that we're improving as an industry and a sport. But overall, my racing, the 49 Napa car was qualified okay. Made a really good last lap pass on Gio and thought I put myself in a really good spot. I drew a 7 for the dash. We tried something to dash and didn't feel good at all. Back to where we were in the heat, and just the car I was just extremely tight in the A. I could just honestly, it just felt like if I could just make a few changes, we would have had a much better car, and I could have got up there and raced, because I thought the racetrack was great. But those are things that happen sometimes. Is you miss it and you make bad decisions, and I spent 30 laps out there trying to figure it out and just never really got it right.
One more thing on the Jake Newman crash that you mentioned before we kind of started recording. It's not like in those instances where that happens, right? The stop just falls off or the arm falls out. It's caused by something else, right? Can you explain kind of what you were explaining to us earlier and just why that kind of stuff happens, even though it's obviously trying to be prevented?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably different perspective on it. I've seen a lot of camera, angles on like a right front arm, and especially on a half mile where you're running wide open, there's a lot of harmonics on the arm, kind of bouncing off the axle, and I think there's a lot of harmonics and a little bit of load and a lot of harmonics, and I think it just it gets moving so fast, and then pushes and pulls. That's been an issue. We've seen that be an issue in the past. So it happens in an instant, and not sure if anybody did anything wrong, but that's what causes it. It's just the harmonics and the load factors that happen. It seems like they come loose due to the harmonics.
Yeah. Well, certainly glad he's okay. And as we said, one down with Gio Scelzi taking home the $50,000 prize last week at Lakeside. And Kyle, you mentioned the new tire, and I guess we can kind of discuss the differences in the new tire. It's a different compound, kind of designed to be utilized more nights, but it's been a topic of discussion a lot in the sprint car world. And as you said, this was your first chance on it. So what did you think of it? What did you guys learn throughout the course of the night that you feel like maybe will help you be better at 34?
Honestly, I didn't feel way different with the new tires. I talked to a few different guys, Brad being one. I talked to Lance, DeWeese, a little bit Carson, and Carson's more similar to me. Like, he doesn't feel much different. But like Lance was saying, and I think even Brad maybe, and I can't remember if I talked to somebody else, but they were saying like it kind of falls into the left rear tire easier. I guess just the construction's a little softer maybe. And or at least Lance said, he feels more laid left with it. And I felt the opposite. I felt really stood up all night. I don't know if that was just maybe Paul's adjustments, trying to compensate for what, comments he's heard from other people or similar comments. But I felt stood up all night. And then finally in the main event, we got a little more left, and then I was better. I could rotate the bottom some. The heat race, I was just really bad and could not get the car to sit left at all. So attitude wise, I felt, a little more up than left. I did maybe in this my first race and whatever, but I felt like the slick was slicker than normal maybe. And then, the grip was equal or grip, but like exiting from the bottom of 4 and driving across to the top of 1 was just really slick. I had a lot of wheel spin, more than I thought that I would typically have. So maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But until we get raced on it more, I don't really know. So just ready to get going a bunch here coming up. And trying to get the 57 a little bit better. But overall, I feel like, for us to drive from where we did to 5th against a great group of drivers, a bunch of drivers and teams who've now been on these tires for 3 or 4 weeks, I thought was good. So good starting point. I thought Paul learned a lot, and Paul's the best in the business in my mind. So I know he'll get it figured out, and I'm sure I was rusty as well. So just gotta if we can get a little bit better, we'll be good.
Brad, I saw you nodding. Do you agree with his feedback kind of on this tire? You've been on it quite a bit more, obviously, up to this point in the year.
Yeah, I think he nailed it. I think when it's slick, it's like it's looser. It feels like there's less grip, and then honestly, in the wet, it almost feels like there's more grip. But for whatever reason, Lakeside didn't have that like feeling left thing that we felt at a lot of other tracks, and some of our setups have been trying to fix some of that. And Lakeside, I was stood up and rolled up the whole time. So yeah, I think his comments are right. I think he's just they got to race a little bit more, and each track's a little bit different, but he'll start to, him and Paul are so good. They'll figure it out pretty quick. It didn't really take them too long at Lakeside.
What I do think is really cool with the tire, I mean, obviously you still have your good guys, right? Like 49, the 2, the 41, but like Austin McCarl was way better than I thought he would be. He was super fast, and I mean, out-qualified the field by a lot. Then you're like, well, we'll see how he races. And man, he had a great shot. Yeah, he had a great shot to win. And I think that, I don't know, I think there is definitely a difference in the tire, because I mean, even you look at like Port Royal and Lucas Wolf is driving by Lance DeWeese to win there. And I think it shows that there is a difference. And maybe their package, suits these tires a little bit better currently. So I think that's kind of fun.
I think one thing that helped a guy like Austin McCarl is he typically struggles a little in qualifying, but the way the track blew off quick, I think it was more of a handling qualifying track. I think that, obviously there are a couple cars after the red, it wasn't very fair that they had to go, after the track set, but that was just part of it. But it was handling. I felt loose, tight qualifying. Typically, like on a half mile, you're just trimmed out, wide open, and we're typically over a second faster at Lakeside. So I think it really opened the door for guys that had good handling, and Austin McCarl was able to showcase himself a little bit more because he wasn't mired in the back of the pack all night.
In the feature, the track, like everybody was on the bottom, and then all of a sudden the leaders all migrated right to the top. Like Rico was the first one there, and then everybody jumped to the top. Was that did that catch you guys by surprise, kind of being a little deeper in the pack, or did you expect it to get up there? Or because I think it happened so fast that I was surprised that once Rico got up there that everybody just jumped up there right away too.
I think a little bit was the rework of the top. The whole goal was to try to speed the top up, because it, kind of had gravitated. Maybe the bottom became a little dominant there for a few races. So, the goal in track prep's always trying to, get the A main to have 2 and 3 lanes. So we sped the top up, but I think it might've been a little greasy to start, or people were just a little timid.
At the bottom, tricky. Like it was kind of like there was a lot of grip, but that grip was narrow. If you got over it up top, it was still greasy. So I think that caution period maybe let it like settle in. I think some guys probably went up there and clean, the grease off a little bit. But 2, I think I don't even think Rico was like meaning to choose the top on that restart. Like I remember after the choose cone, he was like, he'd obviously chose the top, but then he was like fighting.
Yeah, he was kind of all over the place.
Under caution.
He said he told me he was trying to he didn't even know what he was doing. Like he didn't understand the choose cone, and he's like, and then it totally
worked out though for him. Yeah.
On the backstretch, he was like trying to switch with Donnie. He's like, hey, I'll trade you. I want, like, hey, I didn't mean to do that, but I was watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys.
I know. I was like, man.
Well, and there was a couple of those choose cones that like from my perspective, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like Donnie was like in 4th or 5th and lined up 8th, and like Gio was in like maybe like 8th. He lined up, and I'm like. And David Gravel, though, he did say he meant to go from 4th to 6th. Like he said he wanted to be on the outside. He just felt like he had a way better.
Did it work out for him?
No, Gio started 3rd and drove to 2nd and ended up winning the race. It was basically because of the choose cone. So I think there's cool. Yeah, there's some positivity in it. I think there was just a little confusion,
I think we definitely have to have a different looking cone going forward, because I just think like that was people's first time with it, and like naturally when you see a cone on the front stretch, like
a restart
just
cone.
go to the right side of it under caution, and like
guarantee
they
that's
probably weren't even like paying attention to the receiver, because I mean they did. There was one time where the director called it late, but like we were like right before we were coming to the choose cone, like, all right, choose. And I think it caught people off guard, but I think just naturally you're so used to going to the right side of the cone that like that one, I don't think many people like meant to go to the right side, but the Geo was obviously paying attention and went to the inside. So I think we need a different looking cone that like stands out and doesn't maybe necessarily look like a cone, that people know when they see it on the track, like, all right, it's time to choose. But I think it was good. It's just, it takes drivers, probably a night to get used to it. And then I think it'd be smooth going forward.
Yeah, I definitely had a few drivers like that were like, man, that worked out really good. I like that. And then some drivers were like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever been a part of. But like I remember
Donnie was one of those guys that hated it.
Donnie didn't. Yeah, he wasn't too pumped. He's a traditionalist guy. But I do think if once everybody gets it, understands it, it definitely is the way of the future. I know that everybody's going to be looking at it as the next, it's going to be how sprint car races are lined up, double file restarts. And the drivers, this reminds me, I was a part of when sprint car racing went to double file restarts. And I mean, every restart was confusing, high and low, like people were so confused. And now like we can get lined up so fast, and I think the double file cone, people will learn to space themselves out. I think the director of competition will do a better job of, saying, hey, we're coming
just
around.
More of a heads up, I think, let people get prepared and like, all right, start looking ahead and counting what position they're in.
Yeah. I think you need to know what position you're in, and you kind of need to, you need to be able to have some space to make your decision based off of what you're seeing in front of you. But there was like 2 and 3 guys choosing high. So, I mean, like when you see that, you obviously go low, but I don't think you'll see that moving forward.
Yeah. For me, like as soon as the caution would come out, I was like looking way ahead, like counting, and I'm like, and I have experience doing it in the cup side, but with a spotter, but, at least I have experience. I'm like, okay, so, I'm 16th, my number's 8. Like if I see 8 guys choose the inside, I'm going to the outside. If I see less, I'm going to the inside. So, I was kind of ready, but I could watch the people up ahead, and they were like zigzagging, unsure. And then they, a couple of them would choose the outside. I'm like, oh, they messed up. So. Yeah,
but we can't count as fast as you either. 8 to the inside. I'm just like, oh shoot. I should be on the inside. And I still chose the wrong, and I ended up not losing a row ever, but I still was like questioning myself, like, how could you, like, why was I making decisions?
I think more often than not, once people get the hang of it and get used to it, the restarts are going to work out in their favor more often than not. At least more often than the normal double file restart deal does currently. So I think once they get another night or two into it, they're gonna be like, I really like this, and your running order and your position is more in your fate at that point. So I think it's good. I just think there needs to be a little bit more communication between the race director and the drivers, and more of a heads up, and then there'll be more preparation, and it'll all just be smoother. But I think on camera it looked good.
It might even help if the race director says what the leader chose, like the leader chose high or something, like, cause it's hard where I was like, to know who was going
at one point. And it was like, I was like, I was barely into turn 3 when they were choosing, and it was tough.
Yeah. So you just chose off the guy in front of you then, because you really didn't go off of, like, you weren't counting 8 guys.
I was counting.
Jesus.
But I mean, still, like you still end up lining in the 8th row. Like I didn't gain a row or anything.
Yeah. I think it'll just turn out to where, like, it'll just be like normal. Like the inside guy will go to the inside, and like it doesn't fill the gaps. You won't see like 2 and 3 rows choosing the wrong lane. I think that was just the first time, like, lack of experience, like not knowing what to do situation.
In NASCAR, I mean, that's typically how it is. Until you go to like Martinsville, Bristol, those tracks were like, say, Bristol, the outside lane is the dominant, launching lane. So like you might get, single file order, like first and second will choose the outside lane. Then third will go bottom. The 4th place guy, he might choose, he would probably choose third row outside rather than second row inside. But I think in most dirt tracks, you're not going to see that. It's just going to be kind of, first and second, might choose. And then if third place wants to be outside, it's kind of just, rarely are you going to lose more than a row or gain more than a row.
Yeah. And sprint car racing, everything happens faster, right? Like we don't have a clutch. So like you can't like slow down. We don't have a spotter telling us. So like, it's literally just like you trying to count and make a really quick decision. Like you're slowing down, but you can only go so slow. So I think we'll all get better at it and space ourselves out and it'll totally do what it's supposed to do. But
I think a lot worse. So I thought it went okay.
That's the one thing when I kind of put my tweet out and got a lot of the, listening to what fans liked. It was like, man, the choose cone was like 98%. Everybody was like, that is so cool. And I was like, I didn't expect that at all, but it must have looked cool and it's different. And, that's what we're trying to do at High Limit. So that was cool that worked out.
Just doing it for the main event. Just doing it for the main event is good.
Could you imagine how the heat races would have been a mess? Like
I know.
Geez. Yeah. No, I do like our format and stuff. I see people that don't like it, but I like rewarding people being fast and I like the double files.
Follow along too. Yeah. Yes, we basically copy the Outlaws, but like it's just straight up. It's simple. It's easy for fans to follow along with. It's like I've competed in a ton of all-star races and I tried following along with Attica this weekend. It's like it's so hard to like see like who's actually quick time, who who's in what heat race when you're watching qualifying. So it's just hard to follow along, where this is just very simple and easy. And I just the longer I've raced, I used to love, inverts, coming from California, everything's inverts, trophy cups, big inverts, all that.
Your dad, I'm sure he'll draw some.
Oh yeah. I used to be all about it. Now, like the older I've gotten, I'm like, man, just simple's better. So.
Well, we're at a professional, these guys are making a living racing. You got to remember like, you don't want to penalize them for being fast. You know what I mean? And it's a one night, 50,000 to win show. Like gimmicks and things I don't think work. Like the Knoxville Nationals and Kings Rows and things, the multi-day events with the way that, they have like historical different formats. I think those are fine. And
people don't
good.
realize, I think with Knoxville is like, there's 100 and something cars and they're doing an 8-car invert. So like the spread of competition between the guys starting first and 8th is big. Lap time in qualifying. So like, that's why the inverts kind of work. And we've seen as the competition's gotten tougher, it's hard for guys to come from 8th to transfer out of their heat race at Knoxville. But like when you go, if we were to do a 4 or 6 car invert at Lakeside, when the field's half as much and every car in the field is really good, there's not going to be much passing in the heat. So I think fans need to realize that like those big inverts at big races work because the spread of competition is so wide.
Exactly. It's what inversions were originally created upon is, you put Steve Kinzer back and he'd be in the lead in like 3 laps at a heat race, and we've just gotten so far from that, you look at qualifying at Pevely, it was like, 10-4 was quick time and like 20th quick was 10-6. I mean, you're not going to pass that guy in a heat race in 8 laps that you're within 2/10 of. So we're too close. We're too equal. And I mean, our crew guys work really hard, and drivers work really hard to position yourselves in a good spot. The heat race is great because if you don't qualify good, you still can race your way in. And I'm a good example. I was in 4th on a single file restart, 3 or 4 laps into my heat race and raced myself into the dash. So, I mean, I don't know what else.
All the time, by the way.
Well, and Gio then got moved out and then still started 9th and won the race. So, I mean, I think our product's good. I think it's just, you got to leave it up to the racing and I think we need to focus on providing good surfaces that people can pass on. I think that will, solve that. But heat racing is just a part of our event that we can't guarantee that the racetrack's going to be always produce as good a racing night in and night out. So as long as you reward the guys and then the guys that didn't qualify good have a good AMA track to, that's really all that matters.
We had the Durst dice roll too. Nobody took it. Sunshine declined it. So did Donnie. You guys surprised by that or no?
No, not with 50,000 to win. Yeah. I mean, I think that Durst dice roll is really, really cool. I think we just got to keep working at it to keep it enticing for people. We definitely want that storyline to be there. So if no one takes it, for the next couple races, we may have to step our game up and try to entice people even more.
Well, how much more enticing is it when 20,000, 23,000 is still a lot of money. but like it's hard, right, to give up even, a row going for 50 grand, right? So I mean, is that something where it's easier to take it on some of the races where it doesn't pay as much, or is it more just track dependent? How do you guys look at that?
I think both. I think for sure. I mean, yeah, it's if I'd have been won the dash at Lakeside with 50 grand, I think everybody would be giving me crap for not doing it. But like, it's 50 grand. Yeah. I mean, how do you do that? Even though, I mean, the winner came from ninth. So obviously, yeah, you could roll whatever and win from that position, if you do a good job and your car's good. But, and even, Buddy, I think started like 13th or something at Lincoln Park. So, you can win from deep in the field, but the track's got to be a certain way. I think too, we did that draw immediately after the dash. I think going forward, we need to talk about maybe doing it right before the feature. That way you have, eyes on the track and see where it's progressed. Because a lot of times, I mean, you have to dash, you've got the C main, the B main, and then our A, like it goes through a big transition. But
I'd actually like to hear from the fans. Do they think that we should make the driver choose whether he's going to do it, then roll the dice, or do you think that we should allow the driver to roll the dice, then make the decision on what they see? I think obviously the latter would be more enticing. Driver to know, like, okay, it's only a 6, I'll do it.
Like how it was.
Yeah, I think because originally we were kind of saying like, you got to decide you're going to do it, then roll the dice. But we knew no one would do it at the 50, so we let him roll the dice first, so that there was, some sort of enticingness. But
yeah, I can guarantee if I ever win a dash, and hopefully we qualify good enough and win a heat and win a dash. But I mean, I'm going to have to do it. But I hope there's others that have the balls to do it too.
Yeah, but you didn't read the fine print. You're excluded from the Durst dice rule, so we can't afford to pay you that extra money if you win. So,
he'll be pissed, but he'll have to understand.
No, it'll be cool if someone takes it and wins, even if it's you. It'd be cool. I think it's meant to, create some more excitement and another storyline for the event. So yeah, I hope it happens, and I hope somebody wins more money. I mean, that's the goal, and I think that's what's scary about. For drivers to take it is like, if you don't win, then you have to come into your crew and they're like, you dumbass, you were on the pole, you moved back and you didn't win. So like, we don't even want to hear about it. So like, There's just a lot of, or car owners or
that was
whatever.
A tough field too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that's the toughest single day field you're going to see all year long, maybe besides once we get to Lernerville, but, there won't be a tougher field than what was at Lakeside. So, I mean, you can't fault anybody that Durst, the dice roll thing could have paid twice as much to win, and you're still probably not gonna, do it with a field like that coming from behind you. So, it's just, it's a fun storyline though for sure.
Yeah, even though both guys didn't do it, I thought it was cool, and as we said, added something different and something to kind of get excited about. So. Hopefully somebody does it this coming week when we go to 34. So I'll ask you guys the same question I asked about Lakeside. Why 34? What do you guys like about this racetrack, and what can folks hopefully expect to see when we get there next week on April the 25th?
Kyle, have you ever raced 34?
I won there in 2020. Only time I've been there, but Brad could probably speak on it more, but I think just logistically, it makes a lot of sense for, this part of the season. I think the Outlaws go to Knoxville, or either they're at Knoxville before or after or something.
Knoxville before, headed to Granite City. So it's literally right on the way for the teams. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, for these teams, is subsidize their travel a little, give them a Tuesday night show, that has a big purse. So, I mean, 34 is a great racetrack. It's in that vicinity, puts on great races. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Our fans too, in that central Iowa area too. So, I expect we should have a good crowd and a great field of cars too, because everybody's kind of starving to race this point of the year.
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll get, it'll be some different cars than there was last time. I think we won't have quite as many of the, outlaw names, but I think it'll still be, super stacked, and we won't know who's going to win. There's so many good guys that'll be there. So I'm excited. It's our first shorter track, not quite a quarter mile, but we're back to what Kyle wants, the bull ring action. So,
right.
The
Slippers look good. They ran there a couple nights, right? Last
lap pass. Yeah, last lap pass Hunter Schoenberg, and then that the other incident with Bill Baylog, that was the other night. So, but obviously great racing. It produces good racing. So yeah, just excited to have another event. Learn, from Lakeside, try to improve. We're not going to say we were perfect at Lakeside. We definitely want to acknowledge there's room for improvement on all aspects of everything we're doing. So we want to just go in to 34 and have a good solid event, and hopefully we can improve on what we did at Lakeside.
And then after that, we'll go to Kokomo. So we get 2 races back to back, kind of a busy stretch here, and then Wayne County in Ohio too, a little later on in the month. So tickets for Wayne County, or for 34, I should say, available online, of course, at highlimitracing.com. And if you can't be there, you can watch here on Flow. So guys, anything else? Final thoughts before we sign off here? Everybody ready to go next week, I guess? Brad, are you racing again?
I race in Knoxville. I'm sadly not racing the high limit race at 34, but I'll be in a tractor, a water truck, or wherever I can be of assistance. I'm excited.
Brad will be screaming at us on the radio, I'm sure, at some point.
I'll be put my official cap on, and which is exciting for me because I think I can help on a lot of aspects of the event, and hopefully we'll let our stars and all our guys put on a good show.
All right. Well, in that case, Kyle, good luck, I guess. And we'll see everybody on Tuesday, April the 25th at the 34 Raceway in West Burlington, Iowa.